Hey, I'm Rachel. Good to see you today. Today I'm here to talk about this book, Keep Going by Austin Kleon, which is really amazing. I highly recommend it. It just came out a couple weeks ago, and I'd actually been thinking about doing a Facebook Live about this book I've been thinking about it for about 2 weeks, but I kept on not doing it. Um, I don't know. My intuition just told me not to do it. And then it turns out that the timing is perfect now, in a way, because I just found out that someone that I care about passed away this weekend. And one of the things I think that helps me through the grieving process is to remember, like, keep going. And so today I'm going to share a little bit about what I think is amazing about this book, what I think is amazing about life, and also maybe some tips about creativity. And if you're grieving, which I know some of you are, who knew the friend that we lost, then maybe that'll help you too. So this is the first book I've bought by this guy, Austin, and he lives in Austin, Texas, which I wonder if he finds that funny. His other book, I think, is Steal Like an Artist, and there's another one, Show Your Work. And I've been planning to get those, but apparently the Steal Like an Artist book keeps on getting stolen from the bookstore that I go to, Firestorm. And one of the people who works there told me that anything with the word steal in the title gets stolen. So I guess if you're an author, that might be a little note to self. If you want to sell more copies, don't put steal in the title. This one doesn't have steal in the title. So it's called Keep Going, 10 Ways to Stay Creative in Good Times and Bad. It's a short book. I love on the back, I don't know if you can see this super well, he has the chapters, and inside he lists them as well. And even just these chapters are little one-liner inspirational things. And I'm actually thinking about buying a couple copies of this to give as a gift, because I think this is a really great gift, whether you consider yourself creative or not. As I said, like, if you're going through a hard time or grief or something difficult and you just want to be present with yourself and be kind to yourself, this book is really good for that too, even though, I don't believe that he wrote it for that purpose, but he put a lot of heart into this book. And I love the things that he has to say. They're a lot of the same things I believe and like to talk about. So I'm going to tell you about 3 chapters. I haven't even read the whole book yet, because even though it's short, you can see how long it is. I'm really trying to just immerse myself in a chapter at a time and just delight in it and really enjoy it deeply and gain what I can from it. Because one of the things about this modern day world we live in, there's information all the time and consumption and more. And sometimes it's just so lovely to take time and just read a few pages and let that be it, and let that sit with you for a few days. And I mean, I love to read books, so it's actually hard for me to discipline myself to stop reading. But when I come across a really rich book like this one, I really tell myself, okay, take it slow. And also, when it's a really good book and you don't want it to end, sometimes it helps to draw it out and make it last longer. So one of the first couple chapters, chapter number 2, is called Build a Bliss Station. And in that chapter, he talks about stepping away and disconnecting from the normal life that you're in. Maybe you'll wait till my video's over to disconnect. Or you can disconnect now if you want. But, as I mentioned just a moment ago, like, there's so much going on in our lives. But so many of us, we need to connect to ourselves, like to the natural world. And if we're constantly plugged in and tuned in and tapped into every little thing that's going on in every little person, we start to lose some of our reference point, some of our power, our energy, all of those things. And so it's really a great value and gift to yourself if you can find time every day where you're going to say, this is my time when I'm not keyed in and tapped into all of these things. And it could be a time of the day. Maybe it's a section in your house, like a room or an altar space, where when you see it and you sit there and you meditate or you be mindful, you're just in the moment there and feeling really good. Maybe it's the first few minutes of the day. I like to take the first few minutes of the day and, unless the kids are waking up screaming and I have to deal with that immediately. When I wake up, if that's not happening, then I like to just take a few minutes and be grateful and feel my body and just like appreciate what I have. And my general rule is I don't pick up my phone. I try and go as long as possible. At least 30 minutes before I touch phone or technology in the morning. An hour's better. I don't always get to an hour. Normally it's more like 30 minutes. But it is so nice to take that time and just give yourself a container to say, I'm not going to be in the flow of everything happening in the world. And I sent out a newsletter to my email list this week about one of the things that I loved about teaching, and that I feel like in a lot of careers does not happen, is the work schedule, the work calendar. There's no end. Like, yeah, there's a fiscal year, but it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And how are our lives supposed to just endlessly be on this unending cycle, when if you look at the cycles of nature, like there's the springtime, everything's bursting forth a new life, and then there's the summer and the fall, and then in wintertime things slow down. And I love trying to find a way to mimic the seasons of the world in my own life so that I can feel more attuned to the natural world, but more aware that like I'm an animal. Like, yes, we're human, but we're animals. These bodies of ours aren't machines. They're not designed to go at the same pace 12 months of the year, 18 hours a day or 16 hours a day. And so if you can find some time to like take a different pace here and there and honor like, oh, okay, like it is time to slow down. And it also could be like right now in my phase of life with a young baby, an 8-month-old, I naturally have a slower, like less committed to the outside world pace because I'm honoring the stage of life I'm in with him. But other times in my life are going to be different. Ooh, I love that cloud that is right behind my head. That one. Sorry, I'm still learning where the video is in relation to where I am. But anyway, it kind of makes me feel like it's a dragon with really strong muscles. Tangent tangent alert. Okay, the other chapter that I have to tell you about, of the 3 that I've read so far, which as I said, they're all amazing thus far, is number 10, and it's called Plant Your Garden. Of course, I would love that chapter. And well, I love it because he's talking about gardening, and he's talking about, what I was just talking of a minute ago is like he has this quote from Henry David Thoreau: live in each season as it passes and resign yourself to the influences of each. And as I said, a friend of mine passed away this weekend. And I'm still like, I'm not ready to give a, whatever you call it, honoring thing to him yet on Facebook or anything like that, because it's still very fresh. So I'm in the early process of grieving, and I'm recalling when my mother died about 5 years ago. One of the things that I learned through going through that was, even though a lot of us, society or social conditioning or whatever, have received information about like holding your emotions in and don't cry and all of that, I just practice now, like feel the emotion, feel it entirely, and feel it readily. And so yesterday I got the phone call about a friend. Annie and I were headed to a birthday party, and I'm like, tears are rolling down my face as we're walking up to the birthday party for these twins. And I'm just thinking, you know what? Like, okay, like I'm crying at the party. That's fine. Like if they don't like it, they don't like it. I'm not going to try and, hold it all in. Like after I was done crying, I didn't cry the whole party. But I'm feeling the feelings as I feel them, and I don't know that he necessarily talks about that in this book, but that's one of the things I keep on thinking. That's what helps me to keep on going, is if I'm having an emotion, even if it's a negative one, or the quote unquote negative one of grieving or loss or sadness or anger, I just tell myself, like, I'm going to feel it fully. I'm going to, find a positive way to express it if I can. If it's an emotion that's going to be challenging to express with others, then I typically grab my journal and just write and write and write and write. A couple years ago, I guess about 2 years ago now, I had a miscarriage, and that was also very emotional. That was a loss for me and my family. And at that point I thought, okay, I'm going to practice what I learned or observed when my mom died. Like, I'm going to feel the feelings. I'm going to talk about it with people when I feel like it. I'm going to tell people when I don't want to talk about it. Like, I'm just going to live the emotions. And it allowed me to move through them so much more quickly than I think if I would have been trying to avoid or deny the feelings that I was feeling. And that, I think, is just a really powerful thing that any of us can practice. And I think it really does take a lot of practice, some of us more than others. And life is going to give us lots of opportunities to practice this. But that's, one of the cool things about being alive. And I also think one of the reasons I love getting on here and sharing with you, and why I wanted to share about this book as well, is that one of my favorite inspirational thinkers and writers, who is now passed away, but who was really influential to me as I was growing up and reading his books and watching his talks on PBS, was Dr. Wayne Dyer. And one of his, to me, pivotal quotes is, don't die with your music still in you. And I try and live my life with that as best as I can. And, I know other people who are doing that as well. I really feel like the author of this book is wanting to encourage people to do that. And, I think the subtitle of this, 10 Ways to Stay Creative in Good Times and Bad, he's not trying to act like it's always going to be great and every day is a, bouquet of tulips. Like, it's just not. But if you can find a way to stay connected to, the spirit in you and the creative expression, whatever that is for you. For me, a lot of it's writing. It's also connecting with people and talking and gardening. But, for you, it might be making jewelry or making visual art, or maybe it's cooking, or maybe it's not a tangible physical thing, but you just feel creative in the world. Even if you're not creative in the stereotypical way, I think you can still get something from this book, or get something from just the creative expression of being a person who's willing to say, like, yes, I'm going to bring forth what's in me into the world, because none of us knows how long we're going to be here. And, even though we have ideas of how long that's going to be, life surprises us. And sometimes it surprises us pretty quickly. But I think one of the joys is diving in headfirst to the emotions that life brings up and the feelings, and telling the people that you love them. And I think that's about all I have to say for today. So thank all of you who have come and joined while I'm sharing my thoughts. I don't know, did I talk about everything I said I was going to talk about? All right. Wishing you lots of love, and I'm so glad that I'm connected to you. And I just hope that today you find time to hug your loved ones and give yourself some quality time. If you can find a way to build a bliss station at your house, or at work, or in your car, somewhere where you can gather some things that affirm who you are, and that just make you feel joy, because it's a pretty wild and crazy world that we live in. And the more that we can keep on adding joy and light, into the world and caring for each other, like the better that we can make it all for all of us. All right. Love you lots. Take care. Bye.